Last time on Dragon Ball EX, with the mysterious Saiyan revealed to be Goku's uncle. And apparently in my sleep-deprived state, Raditz was Bardock's brother. He heads off to find him, not knowing he's been taken over by an evil entity. At the same time, while waiting for Goten and his dad, Trunks beelines towards the battle to try to help Gohan. So we wonder, will the words of Old Kai to Kibito Kai being too weak to assist be an omen for his own fate?
This story is created by Sebliet and is part of an ongoing series. Catch up full in the links below.
As the imposter charges up Goku's Kamehameha, Gohan pleads for him not to do it. If he performs that attack with such excessive power, he will completely destroy the Earth. But the villain only snarls that he sees his opponent recognizes the destructive power of this technique. However, he doesn't care at all what happens to this planet. It's not even a problem for him, as he can just teleport himself elsewhere instantly. But Gohan, on the other hand, our hero knows he's right. But if his adversary fails, he'll run out of energy if he plans on putting all his power into this attack. Why would he risk so much? Gohan wanted to resolve this battle with punches and kicks to preserve the Earth and cities as much as possible. He didn't think he would get to this point. Now he has to do something to prevent this blast from destroying the Earth. Darting into the air, Gohan shouts to get his attention. His foe arrogantly believes this to be merely a feeble attempt to flee and run away. It's really a way to pull a page from Tien, but really Krillin, and blind him with a solar flare. It works like a charm and the invader holds his eyes in agony. Able to stop the world-ending Kamehameha for now. The entity picks himself up from the rubble while grumbling this little game is over. Reaching into his belt, he pulls out a senzu, proving the bag he took from Frugo is what we assumed it to be after all. Gohan stares on in horror, wondering how this could be possible. The situation may have just become insurmountable. These most recent happenings aren't lost on the approaching Trunks either. The evil ki is increasing while Gohan's has gotten immensely weaker. Now back in perfect shape, Goku comments he's feeling pretty good. The Half-Saiyan puts two and two together and sees this is why he was so confident. His other chuckles if he sees now. He wasn't lying when he said he was going to kill him. Though Gohan isn't impressed. He calls the man a coward while asking where he got that senzu from anyway. It's been a long time since anyone cultivated those things here. But he only questions what he's talking about. These beings only exist in the realm where he comes from. What? Which seems to finally cue off Old Kai about the villain's identity. With Kibito Kai asking what the outburst is about, he asks his successor if he remembers being told that all the Kaioshins of his generation, the ones who fought against Majin Buu, went to the Earth and cultivated some magic beings that already existed on this planet. Taking a second to remember, this seems to ring a bell. Well, those beings have a special origin. They have existed since before this world came into existence, before any of the Kaioshins came into existence. The story claims that those beings were a present from beings who came from a world superior to themselves, given to the first generation of Supreme Kais. But no one knows exactly where the world these ancient beings came from. What's more, in his years of existence, he has never heard anything else about them. The thing is, he who is in Goku's body has those beings, and from what he said, he's pretty sure he comes from the same place as the ancient ones. The Old Kai very much so believes they're in the presence of a superior being, superior to the Supreme Kais, maybe even the creator of all the worlds in existence. Arriving, Trunks does his best to diligently scope out the situation before getting too close. He wonders why Goku of all people is radiating such wicked energy. On the battlefield, Gohan can only wonder what on earth is Trunks doing here. What could he be thinking? The imposter takes notice of the additional warrior, but he can already tell he's too weak to deserve his attention. Trunks touches down and asks Gohan if he's okay, and what's the matter with Goku? Gohan assures he's fine, and it seems that someone has possessed his father's body, but he doesn't know for what purpose, not yet at least. The only thing that he does know is that he's recovered his full power. There's not much he can do to stop him. His ally tells him not to worry. His dad and Goten shouldn't take much longer to get here, and Pan is going to bring the Blitzwave generator. But Pan is coming here? Tone deaf, Trunks confirms his fears. She should be on her way at this very moment. Gohan then scolds it would be better if Trunks were to leave, and by no means let Pan get anywhere near here. It's way too dangerous. That guy has no mercy for anyone. However, the son of Vegeta refuses to leave his friend alone in this situation, not in the battle-worn state he's in, who admits it's actually even worse than he thinks. If anyone dies, they won't be able to be revived. If he hasn't noticed, Dende is dead, and Namek has been destroyed. But both! That means the Dragon Balls too. The villain has had enough of the talking. The killing starts now. After launching the battered Gohan into the dirt, he turns his sights onto Trunks, who's transformed into a Super Saiyan. He taunts for him not to make him laugh. Does he really plan on attacking him with such a pitiful power? You're only annoying me! Using the force of his energy alone, it proves enough to take out the Half Saiyan. The villain states that he's beginning to think he got too excited in coming here. There's nothing for him to do on this planet anymore. In fact, he thinks it's time for him to reclaim his throne. But before he does that, he'll put this miserable world out of its misery. He does have to admit to himself that this fight wasn't all in vain. Now at least he knows his own power. And if it wasn't from those beans he stole from Frugo, he may have actually lost his battle. But how did he know about the Senzu? Picking himself up, the villain's surprised to see Gohan still has some strength left. Still, he can't waste any more time here. He will just have to die along with his planet. Our hero knows he can't give up. He's currently the final line of defense for the Earth. He has one last-ditch effort to protect his home. As his adversary charges his apocalyptic attack, Gohan knows this is it. That ball will have the energy to obliterate everything in its path. He can't dodge it. He must fend it off. Goku laughs to himself, thinking all his foe has to do is touch this blast, and he will die instantly. But back with our protagonist. Something's wrong. His arms aren't responding. Still conscious, Trunks groggily focuses his eyes to see what's going on. He tries to figure out what he's doing. Why is he waiting to do something about that attack? On the inside, he knows he doesn't have the energy to divert it. The only choice he has left is to take it directly head on. He doesn't think his body will be able to resist it, but in any case, whatever happens, it's what his father would have also done seeing the Earth in danger, just like at the end of the Cell games. It doesn't take long for Trunks to understand what's happening. He understands his ally's reasoning. Gohan doesn't have enough strength to reject that blast anymore. He's planning on stopping it using only his body. But in his current condition, it'll more likely than not kill him. This revelation causes an inner crisis for the young fighter. Gohan is so willing to put everything on the line and sacrifice himself for the planet. But himself, on the other hand, he screams for his dad to hurry up and get here. While trembling, he knows Gohan must not die. He and his father are the only ones who can fight against this guy as equals. He doesn't want to admit it to himself as a warrior, but for some time he's been neglecting his training. He was under the belief that if any problem appeared, there would always be someone stronger than himself to resolve it. But now, he's alone, and everything is up to him. It's a pity the Dragon Balls don't exist anymore, but he's not afraid. He'll die peacefully, because it'll not only save the Earth, but Gohan as well. In fact, it's a great honor. Here I go! Gohan! Shoving Gohan out of the way, Trunks takes the death blow to save the Earth's greatest hope. However, the weary warrior only falls to his knees asking why Trunks did that. Looking upward, he shouts that wasn't an energy blast at all. It was all a trap. And that's true. That technique actually doesn't cause any damage. It destroys the insides of whatever body it touches. It wouldn't have had any effect on this planet, but he realized it too late. Meaning, Trunks quite literally may have died for nothing. When a childlike voice calls out for Trunks off screen, could it be Pan? Sure enough, Gohan's daughter has made her way to the battlefield. She senses Trunks' key approaching. She cries for him to get up. After so many adventures together, arguably Pan's best friend is the first to fall in a world without the Dragon Balls to put everything back to normal. While the young girl mourns this loss, what others are yet to come.